According to the Wiki, Dr. Animo's middle name, James, was first added to the Wiki for his character page on January 31st, 2010 by a user named RalphBlade7. The motive behind this is unknown, but we assume Blade simply felt it was appropriate for the character, although it was never mentioned in the series nor on any official media. This middle name in question was completely made up and never corrected for years. Eventually, by the 4th series, Omniverse, the name was officially mentioned in the Season 1 episode It Was Them by Rook Blanco.
Aloysius James Animo.
Due to Ben 10's rotating door of writers, artists, and crew members, it's no surprise that the show itself was found relying on this fan wiki to catch themselves up to speed, and when visiting Dr. Animo's incorrectly labeled page, believed Blade's personal edit was true, and wrote it into the show. Unfortunately, there are many cases over the years when it comes to Ben 10's relationship with its most prominent wiki and the fandom. Some information, like Dr. Animo's middle name, also made its way into the show. Other information, while not canonized in the show, is still widely believed by the majority of the community to this day. To help emphasize the wiki's new standards for content hosted on the site, the team's extensive efforts to clean up the pages, correct information, and add accurate sources, I'd like to take the time to celebrate their 17th anniversary with this video highlighting all of their information changes. I've been working with the wiki the past few months putting this video together, and would like to give a big shout out to them for their diligence in transforming the website from a sourceless free-for-all to something you could confidently use as a source of information on our favorite intergalactic shapeshifting hero. Let's start with a pretty big one, the infamous Naljian. This being was on screen for the tail end of a single episode, with no subsequent appearances or mentions ever since, yet made a strong impact on the fans for a multitude of reasons. For one, it gave the official statement that there were at least 26 significant spatial dimensions in Ben 10.
You only perceive 3 dimensions.
How many are there?
Only 26 that matter.
Secondly, when late showrunner Dwayne McDuffie stated there were more powerful beings in the Omnitrix other than Alien X, the Naljian was widely assumed to be a potential candidate. Although, with the lack of information about this creature beyond her brief appearance, this assumption has no legitimacy. But the reason she's relevant to this video is there's no evidence that she was classified as a Naljian to begin with. Their species was an assumption based on her device in the episode, the Naljian Destructor, but she's never actually referred to as the title Naljian. In the credits, Diane Michelle, her voice actor, is simply credited as Cosmic Mom. Now, one may argue that it should be obvious that the species name is Naljian due to the aforementioned destructor, but when you think about it, that argument does not hold much weight. For example, if an alien came across a glass cup from Earth, does this mean that they can assume that our species is called glass? Or in contrast, shouldn't we call it a human cup, as if we should name each object with our species name? So assuming that the Cosmic Mom species were called Naljians just because she owned a Naljian destructor is a fallacy we all believed for years. Now, some crew members did go on to refer to the Cosmic Mom as a Naljian for ease of conversation, but unlike Dr. Animo's middle name, the species name Naljian was never officially canonized in the show, extended media, or merch, and thus is technically incorrect. The mysterious interdimensional being was only titled the Cosmic Mom in the credits, and there's nothing to support that their species are called Naljians because she possesses an object called a Naljian Destructor. A similar situation occurred with my personal least favorite member of the -10, the Forever Ninja. But similar to the Naljians, the term Forever Ninja is also incorrect. An anonymous user created his page on July 27th, 2008, calling him Forever Night Ninja. This name was later used to refer to an enemy NPC in the Ben 10 Alien Force video game, which was released on October 28th, 2008. This was repeated with the release of Ben 10 Ultimate Alien Cosmic Destruction on October 5th, 2010, which reused the Forever Night enemy, now shortened simply to Forever Ninja. Given the two share many similarities, it was reasonable to believe that the show's character proper was also called Forever Ninja. And as the character never speaks, there were no voice acting credits to reference his true name, and both Tom Pugsley and Greg Klein, the writers of those episodes, have been difficult to get a hold of for questions. So, back in the Wild West days of the Ben 10 Wiki, this was the term we stuck with. Years later, in the Omniverse episode An American Ben Wolf in London, his title was finally revealed as Red Knight.
The Red Knight and I will escort Mr. Tennyson and his girlfriend.
This may seem as though Chadwick may simply just be calling him a Red Knight as an offhanded term of acknowledgement, but the story goes back further, all the way to May 15th, 2009. Years before this episode aired, where a user named Paradox Fan had attempted to retitle the page to Red Knight, citing the pop-up trivia episodes as his source. Sadly, as with most Ben 10 pop-up trivia, this source was erased and Cartoon Network has yet to re-release these pop-up episodes, so there was no evidence to prove this claim. There was also a trading card that labeled him as the Forever Ninja 2. Ben 10 merchandise has never been that reliable, but if the pop-up trivia was true, then the Red Knight was his correct name ever since he first appeared back in Classic. Though regardless, Omniverse gave us Red Knight as his correct label now, new or old. This next one came as a surprise to me. In Ben 10 Alien Swarm, the Queen and her army were always believed to be called Nanochips, but when the concept was reintroduced in the show, they were called Microchips. I didn't understand why that inconsistency needed to be there, especially when Nanomech clearly has the word nano and not micro in his name. Watching through Alien Swarm again, you may notice that the term Nanochips was never used. In the film, these little diamond-shaped robot aliens are only referred to as drones, or simply chips. Using the repeated word chip and extrapolating the prefix nano from nanomech, a page was created on December 5th, 2009 for these nanochips, beginning this misinformation streak. And while the show does rename them to microchips or nanites, it would be wrong to correct the term as nanochip instead. The term nanochip was used in the Ultimate Alien DVD, The Wild Truth, but with the unreliability and false information many items of merchandise have displayed previously, this cannot be taken as concrete evidence. The wiki now considers microchips to be the definitive term, as that coincides with the show. But due to the multiple names it's been given over the years, I'd say it's still harmless to still label them as nanochips, just don't expect to see that on the wiki anymore. Part of Alien Force's legacy is the popular opinion that its third season fell very short, with dramatic changes to the story, characters, and tone of the show, praising the first two seasons. A notable contributor to the success of the first two seasons is that it was originally written as one large 26-episode season. It was Cartoon Network that decided to split that season in half, using the 13th episode as a makeshift season finale. This somewhat worked, as the episode in question was Alien X's debut, along with the incursions and the stakes raised to planetary destruction. But given that Alien Force was intended to have the hybrid arc as one season and the rest of the episodes as another, the wiki has since restructured itself to acknowledge Alien Force having only 2 seasons. While the wiki made this decision to maintain a strict, accurate portrayal about Ben 10 and its wide catalog of info, this change is one I feel like will be the trickiest to get used to. Personally, I'm still going to refer to Alien Force as having 3 seasons. That is how I structured all of my Ben 10 breakdown videos, and it's too late to go back and change that. And even though it's technically incorrect, this is how the majority of the fandom perceives the show, and it would make things easier for conversation, though it still should be noted that Alien Force is technically only 2 seasons. Hey folks, just want to take a few seconds for you to stay in the loop. Tired of waiting so long for our videos? Well, you can help speed up the process. You can join either our Patreon or YouTube membership down below to help us make more Ben 10 breakdowns, episodes of And Beyond, and 5-Whale the Motion Comic, along with everything else we got cooking. Rewards include shoutouts, special channels and badges, exclusive live streams, my making of video diary series, a secret Minecraft server, access to our project files, and more. You can also come hang out with me over on Twitch, where I draw commissions and interact with the community. And if you're enjoying this video, please leave a like and help us feed the unyielding, relentless bloodlust known as the YouTube algorithm. Now, back to the video. So that about covers all of the major ones, but there's still quite a few worth mentioning. Detrovite's Technorg and Vulcanus come from an unknown homeworld, but for a time, their planet was believed to be called Vulcan, as it was added to their page on January 10th, 2010 by a user named DJetray. The name Vulcan ended up on an Ultimate Alien DVD as consequence, further proving that you really can't trust these DVD special features. Home planets and alien species were a big target for misinformation, including but not limited to, Terraspin, Lodestar, Skurd, Armadillo, the Chorus Reptilian Mounts, and Siphon all falling victim to this, notably through misspellings or fake names. But with the new wiki overhaul, you can be rest assured that all species and home planets are now accurate, or at least do not fill in information that is currently unknown. The last name Daniels was added to Cooper's page and is following appearances by users Frimzilla32 and Fiskerton Phantom, a name also without a source to back this claim. A non-canon comic book incorporated the surname for an issue where Cooper appears in present-day Omniverse, which also never happens in the show. Ghostfreak was stated to be weak to sunlight without his second skin, when it was actually the fact that Sascare was incomplete without Ben's Omnitrix that made him weak to sunlight. Although later episodes of the show does incorporate this weakness to sunlight as a concrete part of Sascare and Ectoneurites, regardless of the Omnitrix, the idea of his second skin shielding him in the first place was never brought up in the show. And for our last section, I'd like to go over some of the conflicting beliefs between creators, as some of the opposing opinions on the series has wrongfully shaped the world of Ben 10 in the minds of many fans. There was a large stretch of time where art director Derek was the most active member of the Ben 10 production team online at the time, and frequently responded to questions right up until his unfortunate passing. Though the validity of these were always in a state of flux for the parts of the show he didn't work on and the characters he didn't create. Sometimes he would answer these questions with his own interpretations, while others disclosed his lack of knowledge or involvement on the subjects. This has led to a lot of misinformation over the years. Now, Derek was not the only one who had worked on Ben 10 that would create impulsive answers that were taken seriously, and it goes without saying that Derek was the source for countless admirable contributions to the show. So let's tackle his statements first. Let's start with a common belief that the universe being recreated in Season 1 of Omniverse had erased Primus from existence, as stated by Derek, who is not a fan of the concept of Primus. But when this information was confronted by Matt Wayne, a writer for the show, he disagreed, and with no evidence from the show to back up Derek's claim, Primus is now reconsidered canon by the wiki. And on that same topic, Derek himself had claimed that none of the changes in Omniverse were due to the universe recreation, even though that was his original explanation for retconning Primus in the first place. And in a recent interview, episode director Dan Reba also claimed that many changes in Omniverse were in fact due to the universe reset.
So it was like all of the stuff was like negating what was done before and restarting it. And we did justify it a little bit with Omniverse by having the universe being recreated.
Derek was also a huge advocate for not only claiming that both Ben 10,000s in Classic and Omniverse were the exact same person, but that he was definitively Ben's true future. But once again, running this by Matt, along with statements taken from the show proper, neither of these are considered to be true anymore, as all three of Ben's futures are separate, and none of them can be taken as the absolute path Ben will follow when he grows up. This includes the fact that he is absolutely supposed to marry Kai. While Spanner may be under the belief that this is true, to quote Dwayne, just because a character believes it doesn't make it true. Derek had also once claimed that the Incursean Warrior shown in the flashback of the Ultimate Alien episode Solitary Alignment was not an incursion, but this was corrected on the wiki as well. Aliens Echo and Feedback were also believed to be living energies contained inside of special suits. In Echo's case, Derek stated he learned this concept from Dwayne McDuffie and would use this to explain Feedback's situation. But with some digging, Dwayne was simply responding to a fan theory about Echo's design, which Dwayne disagreed with, confirming Echo was not living sound waves after all. Later on, Derek forgot about his statements about Feedback and retracted the information. A similar case happened with Alien X, as Derek stated that he could destroy a multiverse in 6 thoughts, but later failed to recall this statement too. Given Derek was known for manufacturing answers that were later proven false, and would also admit his disdain for Alien X and parts of the show he didn't work on, I feel all of these alleged weaknesses for Alien X do not hold much weight on the wiki either, as most of the more ridiculous ones come from Derek himself. But to close off the topic of Derek, let's once again tackle the tiresome tale of Kevin's backstory. I've previously released an extensive video on the subject, so I'd like to direct your attention to that project if you'd like the full story. But to skim the bullet points, Derek was the only one who believed that Kevin was definitively a mutant in Classic. No other crew members were able to corroborate this statement, with many who worked on both UAF F and OV also being from the Classic era themselves. Duncan Rouleau, original co-creator of Ben 10 Classic, also spoke against this idea. The sole source of defining Kevin as a mutant from Classic came from untrustworthy merchandise. As Derek was an avid toy collector, and previous examples in this video has shown that his recollection of Ben 10 lore was not always accurate, it became clear that Derek falsely believed that Kevin was always intended to be a mutant, and that his alien heritage was the start of a long series of retcons. But let's direct our attention away from Derek. Many fans look towards Duncan Rouleau as the new unofficial face of the Ben 10 questionnaire. The biggest discourse came shortly after the airing of the 2016 reboot series finale special, Alien Extinction, where 4 alternative Bens join the fight against an evil celestial sapien. You can clearly see that these Bens are meant to represent each iteration of the show prior to the reboot, but the special mentions multiple times that there is no time travel involved, making it impossible for all 4 of these Bens to be Ben Prime. Fans still debated whether or not it was possible regardless of the special's own logic, turning to Duncan for answers. He originally stated that all 4 of them were in fact Ben Prime, fueling the fire of said discourse. But years later, when asked the same question, conceded that they were alternative versions after all. There was also the interview he did for this very channel, where the topic of the rumored original test pilot was brought to his attention, claiming it was fake. Dave Johnson, Classic Series character designer, would disagree, stating the footage was indeed real, which was later confirmed by Nolan Obina once some of the footage was found online, which we also have a video on if you'd like more information on the elaborate search for said footage. Though to be fair, Duncan did say that if the footage was real, he had no idea about it, so it was less him spreading misinformation and more of this footage just flying under his radar, as is very common on a multifaceted production. On a smaller note, in a Q&A article published by Man of Action on various Ben 10 questions, they incorrectly labeled the Cosmic Mom's official species as Naljian, but at the time, this was also an understandable mistake. This about finishes off the major highlights of the changes, but if you're interested in more information, you can check out the following pages on the Ben 10 Wiki, which I will link down below. I'd like to close off this video by highlighting a lot of the Wiki's achievements in light of its anniversary. The Ben 10 Wiki can be perceived simply as a fan site, but it's easily distinguished as the most active and widely used fan site for Ben 10, with many of the show's cast and crew relying on it for information as well. The responsibility of this spotlight inspired them to make each page as accurate as possible, to give fans a place to learn more about the show without the fear of being misled. The site was originally run by a separate team than it currently has, and back then, their standards were not nearly as high as what we have today. They've revamped their manual of style, along with countless pages on the characters, aliens, and episodes. Each page is paired with a gallery of high-quality images of the relevant topic, both with official art, screenshots, and merchandise, which I heavily rely on when editing my videos. You can often find transcripts of the episodes too, but at the time of this video's release, they are still being completed. But these transcripts are the most accurate documentation of the series dialogue, even more accurate than the official subtitles on the DVDs, if you can believe it. I've also been fortunate to make a handful of contributions to the wiki too, with my various escapades through analyzing the show and conversations with the cast and crew, now acting as valid sources of their information. I was also the one who cut out the image of the Synthroid for his page, so that's something. And I'd also like to shout out contributing members of the wiki, old and new, who were able to help make this website possible. Stingfly, Link Madara, Superbike 10, Orion Invictus, Plasma Time, Ben to the Max, Costas 3, Verquim, 10 Benison, Purple is my favorite color, hey, mine too, Chillman Fire, Trigger 009, One of Those DF, Why Lime Girl, Book Reader 345, Ben BFF, Strazar, Take Off Your Shades, Ultiverse, Amanda, Echosin, Shocker 04, Ultra 3000, Infinity Percival, Admiral Jug, Bobby Ratty, Weird 875, Jaberson, Roxalotl, Tron Travolta, The Heat 8284, iLad, Sighelm, Ultimate Night Stalker, One Levi Church, Utkar 22, The Rim of the Sky, Lollipop the King, Fangpire 72, Boulder Pedro, Felipe F. Coinetta, Lude Patties, Luke Zero Skywalker, Beer Garip Insun, Kid Flash Dash Adventures, Danny Man 98, Pesky E Dust, Omarion Ghoulborn, Ultimatrix Wecrium, Ultimate Echo, Capico, Darky _101, Flameboy, Miguel Bianchi, Harut, and Andreas Smithers. As the wiki continues their journey to create the most accurate catalog of Ben 10 information, we can at least put to rest some of the debates mentioned in this video. And until next time, keep it fizzy.
Tonight I'm gonna take you out and live the dream that we've been talking about, so we can dine and spend up all our notes. Let's forget that we broke. I wanna celebrate and have some fun tonight. I wanna show you all the lavish things in life, so raise your toast.